In the deep, shadowy forest, where life clings to a fragile thread, an indifferent farmer has tied a helpless Mustang Mare and her newborn foal to a tree, leaving them as prey for the lurking wolves. The mother horse, strong yet nearly exhausted, stands alone in the darkness, facing the brutal pack of wolves, all to protect her foal. Every step she takes is a fight for survival, and just when all hope seems lost, something unimaginable happens. A flicker of hope shines through the night, but is it a light of life or a tragic end waiting in the shadows? Is there truly a miracle or merely a cruel twist of fate? Let's dive into this captivating story, and you won't believe what you're about to witness. The desolate land stretches out under the dimming twilight, where only the sound of the wind whistling through the dry branches and strange noises in the night can be heard. The sun has disappeared behind distant mountain peaks, and night falls, bringing with it not only silence but a chilling presence, as though the darkness is waiting for something beyond comprehension. But amidst the stillness, a terrifying scene is unfolding. Luna, the strong mother horse, is not just a symbol of motherhood, but also of invisible strength. Trapped tightly against a large tree, her body stiffened by the ropes, she cannot move, cannot protect her child. Her eyes are full of love, but also of fear, as she watches Toby, her frail foal, shivering in panic. Luna senses the danger approaching at an unimaginable speed, and her heart aches as she realizes there is no escape for them. But just when all seems lost, she hears something strange, a noise not from the wolves, but from something else, something unfamiliar and threatening. Zachary Miller, the cruel farmer, with his cold face and eyes full of hatred, has abandoned them in the darkness. He hesitated not for a second, leaving Luna and Toby as prey for the wild wolves. His selfishness not only left them to die but pushed them into an unrelenting battle with nature itself. But does he even know that his cruelty is the greatest trap he has created? In the silence, only the sounds of tearing through the night can be heard. The wolves have quietly crept closer, but strangely, Luna feels that the wolves are not the only threat. Something else, an undefined shape, is watching them from afar. Could the wolves be the only danger they face? And when all hope seems shattered, what happens when maternal love and cruelty collide with something unimaginable? Toby, the frail foal, barely born but full of life, is the only light of hope in the dark. He does not fight only for himself but for his mother, for life, for the future. Though weak, Toby refuses to give up, but can a small creature like him withstand the invisible cruelty closing in on them? Is there truly any magic to save them when life and death are so close? Or is a more tragic ending awaiting them just ahead? Ending as the night completely envelopes them, life and death are no longer separated by a single step. In the darkness, they will face challenges not only from the world around them but also from within themselves. And what will happen next? Only the faint light of hope can provide the answer. Ending in the darkness of the night, when everything seems to sink into a terrifying silence, Luna stands strong in the desolate forest. Each breath she takes carries a sense of tension, as if she is about to break. She cannot run, cannot relax, as Toby, her beloved foal, lies motionless at her feet, unable to rise after hours of despair. The wolves, once again, draw nearer, like shadows closing in on their prey, their growls echoing through the space, like a warning of the approaching death. Each step of Luna seems to become weaker, her body trembling from exhaustion. She looks towards Toby, her eyes full of pain, both fearful and full of hope, as she sees her foal still alive, but too weak to fight the danger. The instinct of motherhood in her will not allow her to give up. She knows that if she does not stand firm, if she does not protect Toby, no one else will. The world seems to have abandoned them, but Luna cannot let everything end in this tragedy. The wolves' growls echo again, this time closer, and Luna feels them surrounding her. She feels their glowing eyes staring at her and her foal from the shadows. Toby is too weak to stand, while Luna is exhausted, but the instinct of a mother tells her that she must fight. She cannot give up. There is only a little time left, and Luna knows that if she does not act now, the wolves will pounce. She gathers all her remaining strength into powerful kicks, using her wild hooves as if to drive away all the death that lurks. The wolves' growls rise louder with each passing moment, drawing closer, showing no signs of fear. Luna's hopes are nearly exhausted. She can only use all the strength she has left to protect Toby, knowing her power cannot stand against the number of wolves. Just when the wolves seem ready to attack, a sharp gunshot rings out, breaking the silence of the night. The gunshot tears through the darkness, creating a brief opening, a chance to escape from the looming death. The wolves stop, but only for a moment. They snarl and retreat, looking for the source of the interruption. However, in that darkness, Mason Walker appears, like an unexpected savior. Mason is not a hero, but he is the one Luna and Toby need. He is not a savior from a fairy tale, but a simple man living alone on a small farm, where only he and the animals he cares for exist. He was never meant to be a rescuer, but his compassion and courage make him unable to watch innocent creatures suffer. Mason's life has been a series of lonely days, with no laughter or joy. Since losing his family in a tragic accident, he has lived in solitude, but it is that very solitude that has helped him find comfort in caring for animals. The horses and dogs on his small farm have helped him overcome the greatest pain of his life. They, those simple creatures, have given him a reason to keep living. But not many know that the pain of loss from the accident has deeply scarred Mason, and those memories haunt him like a ghost. Every night, when he lies on his simple bed, images of his family, of his wife and daughter, still live in his mind, even though it has been so long since he last saw them. His loved ones were taken from him in a tragic car accident. That wound in his heart will never heal, but Mason has not let the pain consume him. He couldn't save his family, but he can save other innocent creatures, and that is why he cares for them, loves them as his second family. He has learned to accept loss and found strength in the love he has for the creatures around him. When he hears Luna's cry for help, nothing can stop him. He knows that if he does not act immediately, Luna and Toby will have no chance of surviving. Leaving everything behind, Mason rushes into the darkness of the forest without hesitation. His legs, though tired and exhausted, continue across the rugged path. The wolves' growls echo from afar, a warning, but Mason does not falter. His heart does not shake, not a hint of fear. He only thinks of one thing: to save them, not to let them fall into the hands of death. Mason crosses each hill, squinting as the faint light of his lantern scans through the dense thicket. Only a few more minutes, and the wolves will arrive, and everything will be over. He cannot afford to be slow. Each step he takes is a battle against the pain of his past. The memories of his family, the loss that he can never forget, but now, he has no time to think about himself anymore. He cannot let Luna and Toby face the death he once witnessed. They are not just horses, they are beings that deserve to be protected, and he is the only one who can help them. As Mason gets closer to the scene, he sees the heartbreaking sight. Luna stands firm in the darkness, fighting off the wolves surrounding her, while Toby lies motionless, weak under his mother. They seem to have no strength left to continue fighting, and the world has abandoned them. But Mason will not do the same. He takes his gun, fires a warning shot into the air, causing the wolves to retreat. A brief moment of stillness, but enough for Mason to act. He rushes to Luna, bends down, and quickly cuts the ropes binding her. Every second counts, every movement requires precision and gentleness. Luna looks at him, her eyes filled with worry, but also full of trust. When the last of the ropes falls to the ground, Luna is free to stand, though still exhausted. She no longer has to fight alone. Mason quickly picks up Toby, feeling the warmth of the little foal's body. With a slight smile, he whispers, "Don't worry, I'll take you both somewhere safe." Those simple words, yet they bring an immense sense of reassurance. Though exhausted, Luna stands and follows him, walking steadily through the darkness, as if knowing that a miracle has arrived. The three of them, Mason, Luna, and Toby, finally escape the dangerous forest, finding a path out of the peril. However, this journey is not just a simple rescue. It is a journey of courage, love, and sacrifice between humans and animals, a journey with no end, unbroken by any challenge. But just as they think they've escaped, the howls grow louder, closer, ushering in a battle for survival that no one saw coming. But just as they think they've escaped, the howls grow louder, closer, ushering in a battle for survival that no one saw coming. The night, once seemingly calm, now becomes a deathly game of cat and mouse, where Luna and Toby must face their worst nightmare yet, one that could decide whether they live or die. The wolves are closing in fast, their eerie howls piercing the silence, their glowing eyes flashing from the darkness like fiery orbs of death. The pack moves like a well-coordinated machine, every step closer, every growl more menacing. Luna's heart races in her chest as the hairs on her neck rise. She knows this is it, the final stand. The protective instincts she's fought with so fiercely now surge to the surface, and with every ounce of her strength, she positions herself between the pack and her precious foal. She fights back, her hooves pounding the ground with fierce defiance, each kick a desperate cry to keep the wolves at bay. The wolves, relentless and hungry, advance in synchronized movements, their eyes glowing with bloodlust. Every time Luna manages to strike one away, two more appear from the shadows, snarling and snapping at her heels. The viciousness of their attack forces Luna to rely on every drop of her remaining strength. The night seems to stretch endlessly, a war of attrition between Luna and the wolves. Her muscles burn with exhaustion, but she's determined not to let them get to her foal. With every growl from the wolves, her body stiffens. Her hooves strike like thunder, sending a few wolves reeling, but their numbers are overwhelming, and soon Luna feels herself tiring. Her legs falter with each kick, and the wolves' relentless assault drives her further toward the brink of collapse. In the distance, Mason can hear the sounds of the chaos escalating, wolves closing in, growls intensifying, the desperation in Luna's cries filling the air. His heart thunders in his chest. His body pushes forward, faster than ever. He can't let her fight alone. He won't let them take her. The distance between him and the wolves seems to stretch forever, but the sounds of the battle keep him moving, every muscle aching with the burden of the moment. Toby's fragile body in his arms offers no comfort, only the weight of a life that still needs to be protected. He has only one thought now, to save them. As Mason approaches the battle, he sees Luna's legs buckling under the weight of exhaustion, her hooves slowing, her fight beginning to wane. He knows that if he doesn't act immediately, it will be over. The wolves will take them both, and Luna's last stand will have been in vain. Suddenly, Luna lets out a shrill scream that rips through the night. It's the sound of a mother's last cry, of a soul unwilling to surrender without a fight. The wolves are inches from her, their jaws snapping, but Mason is here, finally. Without a moment's hesitation, he fires a shot into the air, the loud crack of the rifle shattering the night's tension. The wolves hesitate, their bloodthirsty growls momentarily quieted. Mason doesn't wait. He sprints towards Luna, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The sight before him is heart-wrenching. Luna stands between Toby and the wolves, shaking from exhaustion, but fiercely holding her ground. Her eyes meet Mason's, a silent plea for help. Time slows as he takes the first steps toward her. The wolves are no longer scattering. Instead, they're circling, waiting for the right moment to strike. Mason fires again, a quick, desperate shot that forces the wolves to pull back for a brief moment. But it isn't enough. He's too far away, and the wolves know it. They inch forward, jaws snapping. In a split second, Mason realizes that there is no more time for the rifle. He drops it to the ground, moving to grab Luna's reins. Her eyes lock onto his, and without hesitation, she follows his lead, her instincts overriding her exhaustion. Mason. We need to move now. Luna seems to speak with her eyes, her voice lost in the chaos. Her breath is ragged, and the wolves are beginning to close in again. He's closer now, and without wasting a moment, he dives down to cut the ropes binding Luna. The wolves have regrouped, and as soon as he finishes cutting through the last strand, she stumbles forward, her hooves dragging the earth as her body slumps. But she's free. She's ready. But they're not. The pack doesn't wait to pounce. One of the wolves lunges toward Toby, and before Mason can react, Luna kicks out, her legs flailing, sending the predator flying through the air. Another one immediately takes its place, its eyes fixed on the foal. Mason scoops Toby into his arms, clutching the fragile body to his chest. "Stay with me, little one. Stay with me." The words are whispered, but he's not sure if they reach Toby. But Luna isn't finished. She lets out another loud cry and kicks, catching another wolf in the chest. This time, the wolf stumbles but doesn't retreat. It circles around, more hungry than ever. As the pack begins to close in again, the scene becomes one of utter chaos. Mason's heart pounds in his chest, his pulse thundering in his ears. His hand trembles as he clutches the knife in his belt, knowing it may be their only chance. Another wolf lunges, and this time, Luna is too slow. The creature sinks its fangs into her flank, just below the shoulder. Her scream echoes through the trees, and Mason reacts instinctively. With a roar, he slashes the knife through the air, catching the wolf across its eyes. The beast lets out a howl of agony and retreats, but it isn't enough. More wolves flood forward, a torrent of terror. Mason fires the last shot from his rifle, the loud crack splitting the air once more. He's out of bullets. There's nothing left but his strength, and he knows that isn't enough. Then, in the most unexpected moment, Luna breaks free from the wolf's grip. Her rage has reached its peak, and with one final kick, she sends the largest wolf flying backward. It tumbles, and the others hesitate. It's their chance. With Toby still cradled in his arms, Mason pulls Luna by the reins, urging her to move faster, to keep running, to leave the wolves behind. But the pack isn't done. The remaining wolves charge in a last attempt, their eyes burning with hunger. As Mason races through the forest with Luna and Toby, the sounds of the pack's pursuit become deafening. Every footstep feels like a countdown to disaster, and with every second, they're getting closer to being trapped. Just when it feels like they're out of options, the forest ahead opens up. The moonlight shines through the trees, and there's a clearing, a brief window of escape. But the wolves are still closing in, their steps heavy, relentless, and deadly. Mason doesn't slow. He pushes himself harder, urging Luna forward, his own legs nearly giving out under the strain. One last burst of speed. And then they break through the trees. They make it. Luna, Toby, and Mason burst into the clearing, the wolves stopping just at the edge of the forest. The sound of their growl still hangs heavy in the air, but for now, the threat has passed. Ndingdave escaped the wolves, but Mason knows this battle is far from over. Their flight through the night is only the beginning, and the wilderness they're navigating holds more dangers than they can imagine. But one thing is certain, together, they've survived. And that's all that matters. After the perilous escape, as the first light of dawn began to shine across the sky, Mason felt a sense of relief in the air, but only for a brief moment. A lingering unease still remained within him, one that couldn't be fully shaken. Looking at Luna and Toby, he couldn't help but feel that they were still not truly safe. They had escaped death, but the world outside remained full of dangers waiting to strike. The wolves had been chased off, but the battle wasn't over. The lives of Luna and Toby would not be filled only with peaceful days, but with a series of challenges for survival. Mason took them to his farm, a place with vast fields, lush green pastures, and horses grazing lazily. However, no matter how beautiful the landscape, Mason still felt something inside him that hadn't found peace. His farm, though it could offer shelter, was not immune to danger, and he knew that danger could return at any moment. Mason led Luna into the barn, where there was fresh hay, clean water, and other horses as companions. But Luna didn't rush to relax like the other horses. She walked through the barn door, her steps still cautious, and her eyes constantly searching for any signs of danger. She sensed the safety around her, but she also knew that in the wild, nothing lasts forever. Toby lay on the hay, exhausted from the long journey. The foal, only a few days old, had already faced so much, being abandoned in the forest and struggling to follow his mother's steps. Mason placed him in a comfortable spot, but worry still gripped him. Toby was still too weak, his legs trembling, his tiny body unable to stand on its own. However, with each passing minute, Toby began to feel the care that Mason was offering. His steady hands helped the foal begin to recover, though he knew it would take a lot more time. Meanwhile, Luna was still recovering, but she was no longer as tense and wary as before. She no longer had to worry about protecting her foal from wolves, but now she faced a new challenge, adjusting to life here. In the early days at the farm, Luna remained cautious. She stood alone in the barn, watching the other horses with suspicion. However, each time Mason came near to care for her, she began to sense something different. He didn't just bring her food, he spent time caring for her, stroking her, and helping her recover both physically and mentally. One day, as Mason approached Luna to check on her, she didn't hesitate anymore. It seemed as though she understood that Mason wasn't going to harm her, that he was the only reliable companion in a world full of threats. Her eyes met his, no longer filled with fear or doubt. Instead, in those eyes, there was gratitude, an unspoken trust she had never known in her life. Every day, Mason spent time caring for Luna and Toby, not just physically but also emotionally. He would take Luna for walks around the barn on cool afternoons, letting her feel the freedom and stretch her legs after being bound for so long. He also helped Toby with his first steps, encouraging the foal to be strong, bringing life back into his fragile body. Day by day, Luna gradually started to adapt to life at the farm. The other horses in Mason's stable had accepted her, though there was still a bit of distance in the beginning. Luna slowly began to warm up to them, but she never fully let go of her wariness. She still felt like a wild animal, unable to truly become part of the world Mason had created. However, she couldn't deny that Mason had done the unimaginable. He had saved her and Toby, helped them escape death. With each passing day, her feelings for him grew deeper, and inside her, something began to bloom, a realization that she had truly begun to trust this man. As for Toby, his journey to recovery wasn't just about regaining physical strength, but also a statement about survival. The foal had gone through a long and difficult ordeal, and now, each step he took became more confident. He started exploring new areas of the farm, playing with the other horses, and sometimes even daring to venture farther. Though still cautious, Toby began to trust the world around him. He was no longer just a fragile foal. He had become a symbol of survival, a reminder that, no matter the challenges, we can endure and grow stronger. The days passed in peace. Though Mason always remained on alert, he knew that this farm could offer safety for them, at least for now. The future still held unknown challenges. He continued to care for Luna and Toby, and as the days went on, their bond grew stronger. It wasn't just a connection between human and animal, but a deep emotional link, one that had been forged in a world full of dangers, and now they would never have to face the world alone again. Ending though Mason, Luna, and Toby had found some peace in the life on the farm, their journey was far from over. The world beyond the farm was still full of dangers, and the challenges they faced would only grow as they ventured further into unknown territory. But one thing was certain, they had each other. And that, more than anything else, would guide them through whatever came next. As the days passed, the once calm and peaceful life on the farm began to feel both like a sanctuary and a cage. Mason had given Luna and Toby everything they needed to heal: food, care, and protection. Yet, as time went on, Mason could no longer ignore the growing realization in his heart: they were not meant to live here forever. Luna and Toby were wild at their core, creatures of the open plains, not domesticated beings meant to be kept in the confines of a farm. And, deep down, Mason understood that, despite all the love and care he had given them, the most important thing for them was freedom. It was a decision he had feared but knew he had to make. He had to let them go. This was a choice that tore him apart. Every part of him wanted to keep them close, to keep them safe and sheltered. But he knew, even as he said it to himself, that Luna and Toby needed to return to the wild, to the life they were meant for, where they could roam freely, where their spirits could be fully alive. He had been their protector for a time, but now it was time to let them go and reclaim what was theirs by birthright: freedom. The choice was painful, but it was also an act of love. Mason had learned, through his own loss and healing, that love meant sacrifice. Luna and Toby had touched his life deeply, and he had touched theirs. But the heart of a wild creature is one that can never be fully tamed, no matter how much care and affection is given. The night before, Mason lay awake, the quiet of the farm surrounding him. He knew that the time was fast approaching. When dawn finally broke, it would be the start of something new, not just for Luna and Toby, but for him too. As the morning sun began to paint the sky with hues of gold and amber, Mason stood at the edge of the vast field, his heart heavy. In front of him, Luna and Toby stood side by side, their eyes as calm as the wind that gently swept across the open expanse. The bond between them had grown deeper than just a simple connection. They were no longer just creatures under his care, they had become part of him. But the time had come for them to go back to the wild. Luna, though calm, still carried that wildness within her. She looked at Mason for one last time with eyes full of gratitude and love. He had been her protector, her savior in a world full of threats. But the world she truly belonged to was beyond the fences of his farm, beyond the safety of the barn, and Mason knew it. There was no escaping the truth: they could not stay. Toby, the little foal who had defied the odds and survived against all expectations, stood close to his mother, his movements still hesitant but filled with a newfound strength. He had grown stronger, both in body and in spirit, under Mason's care. Now, as he stood in the vast open field, the winds of freedom seemed to call to him. Toby was no longer the fragile foal he once was. He had become a symbol of survival and hope. As Mason led Luna and Toby toward the open field, his hand trembling slightly as he held the reins of the mare, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about letting go of two animals, it was about accepting the circle of life, about knowing when to hold on and when to let go. It was an act of love and courage that he knew would haunt him for the rest of his life, but it was also the right thing to do. Luna took a final glance at Mason, her eyes soft yet full of unspoken words. She had known him as a protector, but she also knew that now she must return to her true home, where the winds were wild and the plains stretched endlessly before her. She could feel the pull of the wild inside her, the place where she truly belonged. Toby, standing beside her, took a step forward, testing the ground beneath his hooves. His heart was full of uncertainty, but also of excitement. He had once been lost in the forest, unsure of where he was going. But now, as he looked out into the vast, untamed land before him, he could sense that the world was full of endless possibilities. It was no longer a frightening place. It was the place where he would thrive, where he would become who he was meant to be. The moment hung in the air, thick with emotion. Mason took one last look at the pair before him. His heart ached as he watched them stand there, his heart full of love, sorrow, and pride. He had raised them, protected them, and watched them grow stronger. But the time had come for them to reclaim their freedom, to return to the wild. With a heavy heart, Mason slowly released Luna's reins, and the mare, without a second glance, walked toward the open field. Toby followed her, his small legs moving faster, eager to join his mother in this new chapter. They walked together, side by side, toward the horizon where the wild stretched out before them. Mason stood still, his eyes locked on them as they walked away. The sound of their hooves on the grass was the only noise that remained in the silence of the moment. The bond between them, though now stretched across the distance, remained unbroken. Luna and Toby would never forget him, and he would never forget them. The last time he saw them, they turned back for a moment, their eyes meeting his one final time. It was a gaze full of everything they had shared, gratitude, trust, and a deep understanding. Mason smiled softly, a tear slipping down his cheek as he nodded, silently bidding them farewell. Then, just as quickly as they had appeared in his life, they were gone, disappearing into the wild expanse where they truly belonged. Mason remained standing in the field, his heart heavy but at peace. He knew that they were free now, running wild as they should be. It was the hardest thing he had ever done, but it was also the most selfless act of love he could have given them. The tears that ran down his cheeks were not just tears of loss, but also of gratitude. He had given them their freedom, and in return, they had given him something that would last a lifetime, the knowledge that sometimes love means letting go. As the sun began to set, casting a warm, golden glow over the land, Mason turned and walked back to the farm. The journey had been long, but he knew that the love they had shared would live on, not just in the farm, but in the wild places where Luna and Toby now roamed free. Though the journey of freedom had just begun for Luna and Toby, and their connection with Mason had been a turning point in their lives, their true adventure was still waiting for them in the vast. Mason, the journey of healing would continue, knowing that the love he gave them would always remain in the heart of the wilderness. As Mason stood alone in the field, watching Luna and Toby disappear into the vast wilderness, a wave of emotion washed over him. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on his chest, but within that weight, there was also a deep sense of peace, a profound understanding that he had done the right thing, even though it tore his heart apart. The world seemed quieter now, as if the land itself understood the sacrifice he had made. He had given Luna and Toby something far more valuable than shelter or safety. He had given them freedom, the most precious gift a wild creature could receive. But in doing so, he had also received something in return, something profound that could never be fully measured or understood through mere words. What had begun as a struggle for survival had now become a journey of deeper understanding, of love, sacrifice, and the undeniable connection between man and the creatures he shares this world with. Mason's heart had been touched by Luna and Toby, and now, more than ever, he realized that their story was not just about his love for them, but the love that transcends boundaries, a love that defies all expectations. This story was not just about the act of rescuing Luna and Toby. It was about the transformative power of love and the strength of sacrifice. When Mason first met Luna and Toby, he had no idea they would change his life forever. What began as an act of compassion quickly evolved into a bond that went beyond the typical relationship between man and animal. It was a love that went beyond care, feeding, and shelter. It was the kind of love that pushed a person to their limits, the kind of love that demands selflessness. Mason's decision to release them back into the wild was a true act of sacrifice. It was a sacrifice that hurt him deeply, but it was also a sacrifice that spoke of his profound respect for their nature. Deep down, he knew that Luna and Toby were not meant to live in captivity. They were wild creatures, born to roam the open plains, to feel the wind beneath their hooves, and to experience the freedom they had once known. The decision to let them go, despite his deep love for them, showed the depth of his character, the courage to let go when it mattered most. Mason had given them his love, his care, his protection, but in the end, he understood that their true freedom was more important than any attachment he had to them. He had nurtured them, watched them grow stronger, and now he had to let them go, free to live their lives as they were meant to. This was the true essence of love, giving without expecting anything in return, allowing those you care for to live fully and freely, even if that means saying goodbye. Luna and Toby had shown Mason what real love was. They had trusted him, even when they had no reason to, and in turn, he had learned to trust himself. The love between them was not one of ownership, but one of mutual respect, understanding, and the acknowledgement of each other's needs and place in the world. The bond between Mason and the creatures he cared for transcended the simple act of rescuing and nurturing. It teaches us that love is not just limited to human relationships. Love can be found between humans and animals, between humans and nature. And sometimes, love means letting go, even when the heart aches. It is the kind of love that allows the other to fulfill their purpose, to reclaim their freedom, and to live as they were meant to. Despite the bond they shared, Mason understood that Luna and Toby's journey was never about his desire to keep them close. It was about their right to live freely. For Luna and Toby, freedom was their birthright, and no matter how much Mason loved them, he knew they could not be kept in captivity forever. They were wild creatures at heart, and it was time for them to return to the life they were born to live. Mason's act of releasing them into the wild was not only a sacrifice of his own desires, but also an affirmation of their right to live the way they were meant to. It was a powerful reminder that every creature, whether human or animal, has the right to freedom, a right to live without being bound by the boundaries humans create. Mason's decision was not a failure, but a triumph. It was the realization that love doesn't always mean keeping someone close, but sometimes it means allowing them to be who they are and helping them find their own way in the world. When Mason released Luna and Toby, he honored their true nature, their wildness, their instincts, and their need to be free. He had given them something far more valuable than any material possession. He had given them the chance to live fully and unbound. It was a decision that spoke volumes about the nature of love. It's not about ownership, but about freeing the other to be themselves, to grow, and to thrive. The final message of this story is that freedom is the ultimate form of love. Sometimes, the greatest gift we can give is letting go, stepping aside, and allowing the other person to have the space to live their life the way they see fit. It is in these moments of release that we find the true meaning of love and the depth of our connection with the world around us. And in that release, we find peace, knowing that we did the right thing, even if it was the hardest thing we could ever do. As Mason walked back to the farm, his heart heavy yet peaceful, he knew that the bond he shared with Luna and Toby would never be broken. The love they had shared would live on, not just in the quiet corners of the farm, but in the vast open plains where they roamed free. It was a love that transcended time and distance, a love that was not bound by cages or fences, but was eternal, wild, and pure. Though they had left his life physically, Luna and Toby would forever remain in his heart, and the lessons they had taught him about love, sacrifice, and the power of freedom would stay with him for the rest of his life. The wild had called to them, and they had answered. Now, it was Mason's turn to let them go, knowing that their love and their freedom would live on forever. As the sun began to set, casting its final rays over the land, Mason smiled softly, feeling a deep sense of peace. He had given them freedom, and in return, they had given him a lesson in love that would last a lifetime. He knew that the world was a better place because of them, because of their wild hearts, their strength, and their unwavering bond. And so, Mason continued his journey, knowing that true love was not about possession, but about giving those you love the freedom to be who they are, wherever they may roam. Though Luna and Toby had been given their freedom, and their journey into the wild had just begun, Mason knew that the connection they shared would never fade. But what would the wild hold for them? Would their lives intertwine again, or would this truly be their final parting? The story of freedom was still unfolding. What would the future bring for Mason, Luna, and Toby? As the wind whispered through the trees, Mason couldn't help but wonder if their paths would cross once again, if the wild would guide them back together, or if this farewell was the final chapter of their shared story. Only time would tell. Ending the story of Luna, Toby, and Mason is more than just a tale of survival. It speaks to universal truths of love, sacrifice, and the undeniable bond between humans and the natural world. Through the journey they shared, the audience learns that love is not just about keeping someone close, it's about giving them the freedom to be who they are, to live as they were meant to, even when that means saying goodbye. True love, in its purest form, is selfless. It is the act of letting go, respecting the freedom and rights of others, no matter how painful it may be. In a world where control and ownership often reign, the greatest gift we can give is the gift of freedom. This story encourages us to reflect on our own relationships, with nature, with the people around us, and with the creatures we share this planet with. It reminds us that the true measure of love is not how much we can hold someone close, but how willing we are to let them go for their greater good. Through sacrifice, we find our deepest connection to the world and to each other.